मेरा तो देखा था नहीं. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go on this side. There we go. What time is darshan? 7:15. Yeah, that's fine. It's 7:20 we start. 7:15 to 7:20 is a darshan, and then 7:20 we start Prabhupada Guru Puja. 7:20, 7:25. Guru Maharaj, you want some devotee to do? You volunteer. Whatever is up to
Guru
you.
Maharaj, I found the Madan Mohan things if you need right now or later.
You can see me some Manjari.
You don't have capsules?
Sorry, Prabhu? These, Vijay Prabhu gave me these to separate the tulsi leaves from the manjaris. Yeah, here. Prabhu, they are not, these are only manjaris. Downstairs.
Divyanand Prabhu?
He's doing that.
You need more towel.
More travel.
Yes, Guru.
I'm doing another one. Want to put on this one.
Yes. So small towel for daily.
Small.
Your tablets are here.
Small towels. The one he carries everywhere.
New ones. Lady department. Lady department.
Oh, but it's in here.
Right, shoot. No, it's not here, it's in lady department. That's for the new towel.
Oh, okay. She's
Who is that? Makuta. I need the kurta, but in the meantime, I can put the chadar. I'll find the kurta. Yes, Guru Maharaj. I'm finding. Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Umadi Italy also, Tamil?
So,
Umadi Italy also? Umadi Italy also?
it is true.
The 10 pairs.
You go to Sutu's, okay? Yes. Right by his feet.
Which one I'm going to kurta order? Prabhu, Prabhu. Wait. Guru Maharaj ने kurto જોઈએ તો પણ આ બધા કપડા પડ્યા છે મને kurto હતો ને બધું
All colors have no kurta.
Like, they thought it's hot over here in America.
What happened?
I was like, I don't know, thought it's hot in America. There should be no kurta. I think it's kurta. I'm pretty sure.
Where?
I don't know, Prabhu. Like, can you put the chadar on and put the kurta? Kuna? Prabhuji, I don't know. I don't know.
Good, good. Travel. Yeah. We can put it on. नीचे नहीं था तो आपको महाराज ने उसके नीचे नहीं था तो ओके
Color is different from that. Little light.
ये लगाइए सबको मुझे उड़ा मतलब नहीं लगाई दिए
Only in one we have kurta.
तो वो नाम क्या सर बिलरिंग वाली
हमारे टच करा दे.
स्क्रीन जो था ना
Use me on those things.
बताओ सर तो तुमने बैग बताओ
Yep.
Yes, tell them. Jewelry से हम jewelry नानी में बार बार हाँ અને બીજામાં
પેલા આપણે પ્રભુ
Yes.
કાલે લોકો તુલસી મોટી મોટી લાયા છે તુલસી કેમ ના લાયા મોટી તુલસી લાયા
To video करना तुलसी गार्डन से ये पिकनिक पॉइंट गार्डन
તમારે ખાવા
ચાર આવ્યા ત્રણ
ना बेन
હા હજી આવી નહીં
इससे
છે ને 3 meters
like before there is another one. ये customer pushing into
તમારે બોલો ને ચોખા થઈ
તો કોઈ તો મને દવા કરે
it's okay.
can do that
very simple yes
Yes.
separate bag yes
Yeah, oh yeah.
પ્રોગ્રામ પૂછે
Oh yeah, yeah, it's simple, you know, it's simple. Like Aditya Chalaprabhu and these mentioned, very simple. Very simple, you know, very simple. Yes, it's a very simple.
બેસવાડા
thank you
ચાર
વિજય પ્રભુ
હા
સેપરેટ કરવાનું
સેપરેટ કર્યો છે મોટા કરે છે મોટા થયેલા છે
thank you સેપરેટ બનવું
અને પૂરું મૂકી દે પછી માથું ચાદરના ઉપર અને પાઉં બે રૂપિયા
ગોપાલ પ્રભુ
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
વિષ્ણુ હું ગાર્ડન આપશે વિષ્ણુ પ્રભુ
Yes, go ahead.
ગાર્ડન yes ma'am this what looking at that size તો બધું કરી છે ને
Yeah.
અને મોટો ગાર્ડન કાઢો
Yeah, yeah. Everything on my phone, you go to Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is a big one. We have 17 now. After these new 4 now. Actually, try to get it.
Madam Right.
I didn't see a book here, so that's it. Is that, do they have the Bhagavatam set here?
Yes, it's in this one, very useful. After how much can you say?
Meaning, how to say those things. Kan kurang bilang, awas sama dia lah.
Chapter 31, Narada instructs the Prachetas. The great saint Maitreya continued, after that the Prachetas lived at home for thousands of years and developed perfect knowledge in spiritual consciousness. At last they remembered the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and left home, putting their wife in charge of a perfect son.
Next.
Just the translation.
Apa bermakna?
The Prachetas went to the seashore in the west, where the great liberated sage Jali was residing. After perfecting the spiritual knowledge by which one becomes equal toward all living entities, the Prachetas became perfect in Krishna consciousness. After practicing the yoga asana for mystic yoga, the Prachetas managed to control their life, air, mind, words, and external vision. Thus, by the pranayama process, they were completely relieved of material attachment. By remaining perpendicular,
It's not right size group.
they could concentrate their minds on the uppermost Brahman. While they were practicing this pranayama, the great sage Narada, who was worshipped both by demons and by demigods, came to see them. As soon as the Prachetas saw the great sage Narada had appeared, they immediately got up, even from their asanas. As required, they immediately offered obeisances and worshipped him. And when they saw that Narad Muni was properly seated, they began to ask him questions. All the Prachetas began to address the great sage Narada. O great sage, O Brahmana, we hope you met with no disturbances while coming here. It is due to our great fortune that we are now able to see you. By the traveling of the sun, people are relieved from the fear of the darkness of night, a fear brought about by thieves in robes. All the Prachetas began to address the great sage Narada. O great sage, O Brahmana, we hope you met with no disturbances while coming here. It is due to our great fortune that we are now able to see you. By the traveling of the sun, people are relieved from the fear of the darkness of night, a fear brought about by thieves in robes. Similarly, your traveling is like the sun's, for you drive away all kinds of fear. Purport. Because of the night's darkness, everyone is afraid of rogues and thieves, especially in great cities. People are often afraid to go out on the streets, and we understand that even in a great city like New York, people do not like to go out at night. More or less, when it is night, everyone is afraid, either in the city or in the village. However, as soon as the sun rises, everyone is relieved. Similarly, this material. Next word. O Master, may we inform you that because of our being overly attached to family affairs, we almost forgot the instructions we received from Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu. Dear Master, kindly enlighten us in transcendental knowledge, which may act as a torchlight by which we may cross the dark meshes of material existence. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidra, being thus petitioned by the Prachetas, the supreme devotee Narada, who was always absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, began to reply. The great sage Narada said, when a living entity is born to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller, his birth, all his fruitive activities, his lifespan, his mind, and his words are all factually perfect.
Steve?
Yeah, please.
Is,
Yeah, of course. It's just waiting.
a civilized
Yeah.
A civilized human being has three kinds of births.
Right.
The first birth is by a pure father and mother, and this birth is called birth by semen. The next birth takes place when one is initiated by the spiritual master, and this birth is called savitra. The third birth, called yajnika, takes place when one is given the opportunity to worship Lord Vishnu. Despite the opportunities for attaining such births, even if one gets the lifespan of a demigod, if one does not actually engage in the service of the Lord, everything is useless. Similarly, one's activities may be mundane or spiritual, but they are useless if they are not meant for satisfying the Lord.
Go to the next chapter.
Next chapter.
Next verse.
Chapter.
Just put all that, okay? So, we can-
This is the last chapter. This is the last chapter in this conference, right? In chapter 5.
Oh. The previous chapter. Yeah.
Activities of the Prachetas. Chapter 30, Activities of the Prachetas. Vidura inquired from Maitreya, O Brahmana, you formerly spoke about the sons of Prachinabhari and informed me that they satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead by chanting a song composed by Lord Shiva. What did they achieve in this way? My dear Bhaspatya, what did the sons of King Bharishat, known as the Parachetas, obtain after meeting Lord Shiva, who is very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of liberation? Certainly they were transferred to the spiritual world, but apart from that, what did they obtain within this material world, either in this life or in other lives? The great sage Maitreya said, the sons of King Prachinabhari, known as the Prachetas, underwent severe austerities within the system to carry out the order of their father. By chanting and repeating the mantras given by Lord Shiva, they were able to satisfy Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
This is 7.
Are you looking for?
7.
At the end of 10,000 years of severe austerities performed by the Prachetas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to reward their austerities, appeared before them in his very pleasing form. This appealed to the Prachetas and satisfied the labor of their austerities. The Personality of Godhead appearing on the shoulder of Garuda seemed like a cloud resting on the summit of the mountain known as Meru. The transcendental body of the Personality of Godhead was covered by attractive yellow garments, and his neck was decorated with the jewel known as Kastuba Mani. The bodily effulgence of the Lord dissipated all the darkness of the universe. The Lord's face was very beautiful, and his head was decorated with a shining helmet and golden ornaments. The helmet was dazzling and was very beautifully situated on his head. The Lord had 8 arms, with each held a particular weapon. The Lord was surrounded by demigods, great sages, and other associates. These were all engaged in his service. Garuda, the carrier of the Lord, glorified the Lord with Vedic hymns by flapping his wings. Garuda appeared to be an inhabitant of the planet known as Kinnara Loka. Around the neck of the personality of Godhead hung a flower garland that reached to his knees. His 8 stout and elongated arms were decorated with that garland, which challenged the beauty of the goddess of fortune. With a merciful glance and a voice like thunder, the Lord addressed the sons of King Prachinabharisha, who were very much surrendered unto him.
Yeah, we have 20, we have 17.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me. The Lord continued, Those who remember you, every... Yes. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me. Since the sons of King Prachinabharisha were all united in Krishna consciousness, the Lord was very pleased with them. Each and every one of the sons of King Prachinabharisha was an individual soul, but they were united in offering transcendental service to the Lord. The unity of the individual souls attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is real unity. In the material world, such unity is not possible. Even though people may officially unite, they all have different interests. In the United Nations, for instance, all the nations have their particular national ambitions, and consequently they cannot be united. This unity between individual souls is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to having different opinions and leaning toward material things. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be two opinions. There is only one goal, to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there is some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. Those who are actually engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance. This makes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benediction to his devotees. As indicated in this verse, we can see that the Lord is immediately prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of King Prachinabharisha. The Lord continued, Those who remember you every evening. The one before this? The one at the reading. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear sons of the King, I am very much pleased by the friendly relationships among you. All of you are engaged in one occupation, devotional service. I am so pleased with your mutual friendship that I wish you all good fortune. Now you may ask a benediction of me. Since the sons of King Prachinabharisha were all united in Krishna consciousness, the Lord was very pleased with them. Each and every one of the sons of King Prachinabharisha was an individual soul, but they were united in offering transcendental service to the Lord. The unity of the individual souls attempting to satisfy the Supreme Lord or rendering service to the Lord is real unity. In the material world, such unity is not possible. Even though people may officially unite, they all have different interests. In the United Nations, for instance, all the nations have their particular national ambitions, and consequently they cannot be united. This unity between individual souls is so strong within this material world that even in a society of Krishna consciousness, members sometimes appear disunited due to their having different opinions and leaning toward material things. Actually, in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be two opinions. There is only one goal, to serve Krishna to one's best ability. If there is some disagreement over service, such disagreement is to be taken as spiritual. Those who are actually engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be disunited in any circumstance. This makes the Supreme Personality of Godhead very happy and willing to award all kinds of benediction to his devotees. As indicated in this verse, we can see that the Lord is immediately prepared to award all benedictions to the sons of King Prachinabharisha. The Lord continued, those who remember you every evening of every day will become friendly with their brothers and with all other living entities. Those who will offer me the prayers composed by Lord Shiva, both in the morning and in the evening, will be given benedictions by me. In this way they can both fulfill their desires and attain good intelligence. Good intelligence means going back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam yadani buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. One who offers prayers to the Lord to fulfill his different desires must know that the highest perfectional fulfillment of desire is to go back home, back to God. In this verse, it is indicated that those who remember the activities of the Prachetas, the sons of King Prachinabharisha, will be delivered and blessed. So what to speak of the sons of King Prachinabharisha, who are directly connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead? This is the way of the Parampara system. If we follow the Acharyas, we attain the same benefit as our predecessors. If one follows the decisions of Arjuna, he should be considered to be directly hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no difference between hearing Bhagavad Gita directly from the Supreme Lord and following a personality like Arjuna, who formerly heard Bhagavad Gita directly from the Lord. Sometimes foolish people argue that since Krishna is not present at the moment, one cannot take direct instructions from him. Such foolish people do not know that there is no difference between directly hearing Bhagavad Gita and reading it, as long as one accepts Bhagavad Gita as it is, spoken by the Lord. However, if one wants to understand Bhagavad Gita by its imperfect interpretations, one cannot possibly understand the mysteries of Bhagavad Gita, even though one may be a great scholar according to mundane estimation. Because you have with pleasure accepted within your hearts the orders of your Father and have executed those orders very faithfully, your attractive qualities will be celebrated all over the world. Since every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has small independence. Sometimes unintelligent men ask why one is put into a miserable condition, even though everyone is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of his minute independence, the living entity can obey or disobey the orders of the Supreme Lord. If he obeys the Supreme Lord's orders, he becomes happy. If he does not, he becomes unhappy. Therefore, the living entity creates his own happiness or unhappiness. The Supreme Lord does not enforce these on anyone. The Supreme Lord praises the Prachetas because they all faithfully obeyed the orders of their father. The Lord therefore blessed the sons of King Prachinabharisha because they obeyed the father's orders. You will have a nice son. You will be in no way inferior to Lord Brahma. Consequently, he will be very famous all over the universe. And the sons and grandsons generated by him will fill the three worlds. As explained in the next verse, the Prachetas will marry the daughter of the great sage Pandu. It is suggested that the son's name will be Vishruta, and that he will glorify both his father and mother because of his good character. In fact, he would be greater than Lord Brahma. The great politician Chanakya said that if there is a good tree within a garden or forest, its flowers will fill the forest with their fragrance. Similarly, a good son within a family makes the whole family famous all over the world. Krishna took birth in the family of the Yadus, and consequently the Yadu dynasty is famous all over the world. O sons of King Prachina Bharishat, the heavenly society girl named Pramlocha kept the lotus-eyed daughter of Kandu in the care of the forest trees. Third canto, which chapter? Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, chapter 20. Sri Shaunaka inquired, O Suta Goswami, after the earth was again situated in its orbit, what did Swayambhuva Manu do to show the path of liberation to persons who were to take a book? Chapter 20, Canto 3. Conversation between Manu and Kardama is the next chapter.
Goes like that.
થોડું ઊંચું કરવું પડશે થતું હોય તો
નીચું દેખાતું હોય તો
Chapter 25. The Glories of Devotional Service. Sri Shaunaka said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapila Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. The word Pragyataye indicates that the Lord descends for the benefit of the human race to give transcendental knowledge. Material necessities are quite sufficiently provided for in the Vedic knowledge, which offers a program for good living conditions and gradual elevation to the platform of goodness. In the mode of goodness, one's knowledge expands. On the platform of passion, there is no knowledge. Shaunaka continued, there is no one who knows more than the Lord himself. No one is more worshipable or more mature a yogi than he. He is therefore the master of the Vedas, and to hear about him always is the actual pleasure of the senses. Therefore, please precisely describe all the activities and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of self-desire and who assumes all these activities by his internal potency. Sri Suta Goswami said, the most powerful sage Maitreya was a friend of Vyasadeva. Being encouraged and pleased by Vidura's inquiry about transcendental knowledge, Maitreya spoke as follows. Maitreya said, when Kardama left for the forest, Lord Kapila stayed on the strand of the Bindu Sarovar to please his mother Devahuti. When Kapila, who could show her the ultimate goal of the absolute truth, was sitting leisurely before her, Devahuti remembered the words Brahma had spoken to her, and she therefore began to question Kapila as follows. Devahuti said, I am very sick of the disturbance caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, my lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance. Lord, your lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental eye, which by your mercy only I have attained after many, many births. Purport. This verse is very instructive, since it indicates the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple. The disciple or conditioned soul is put into this darkest region of ignorance, and therefore is entangled in the material existence of sense gratification. It is very difficult to get out of this entanglement and attain freedom. But if one is fortunate enough to get the association of a spiritual master like Kapila Muni or his representative, then by his grace one can be delivered from the mire of ignorance. The spiritual master is therefore worshipped as one who delivers the disciple from the mire of ignorance with the light of the torch of knowledge. The word paragam is very significant. Paragam refers to one who can take the disciple to the other side. This side is conditioned life. The other side is a life of freedom. The spiritual master takes the disciple to the other side by opening his eyes with the knowledge. We are suffering simply because of ignorance. By the instruction of the spiritual master, the darkness of ignorance is removed, and thus the disciple is enabled to go to the side of freedom. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, one surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, if after many, many births, one is able to find a bona fide spiritual master and surrender to such a bona fide representative of Krishna, one can be taken to the side of light. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe. Kapila Muni is accepted as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Here, the word Adya means the origin of all living entities. And Pumsam Ishvara means the Lord, Ishvara, of the living entities. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Kapila Muni is the direct expansion of Krishna, who is the sun of spiritual knowledge. As the sun dissipates the darkness of the universe, so when the light of the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down, it at once dissipates the darkness of Maya. We have our eyes, but with the light of the sun, our eyes are of no value. But without the light of the sun, our eyes are of no value. Similarly, without the light of the Supreme Lord, or without the divine grace of the spiritual master, one cannot see things as they are. Now be pleased, my Lord, to dispel my great delusion. Due to my feeling of false ego, I have been engaged by your Maya and have identified myself with the body and consequent bodily relations. The false ego of identifying one's body as oneself. Okay. Devhuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman, and between spirit and matter. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists, who are interested in self-realization. The Supreme Personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system. O most pious Mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system, which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way. The stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. When one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and greed produced from the false identification of the body as I and bodily possessions as mine, one's mind becomes purified. In that pure state, he transcends the stage of so-called material happiness and distress. At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, or the very minute in size. In that position of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him. Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the only auspicious path. Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation.
This is better, it doesn't move either, this is a real, so this one is better, I think. This one also moves, it's not good.
Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life. And the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed. It is simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness, therefore, is the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. A living entity, by constitution, has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. This indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state, but the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or as devotee, is the source of liberation. Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to the self-realized devotees. the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or long beard. A sadhu is described in Bhagavad Gita as one who unflinchingly engages in devotional service. Even though one is found not to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhureva samantavya. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to the sadhu or devotee. Lord Chaitanya also confirmed this. Lavamatra sadhu sangha sarva siddhihai. Simply by a moment's association with the sadhu, one can attain perfection. Mahatma is a synonym of sadhu. It is said that service to a Mahatma or elevated devotee of the Lord is Dvaram Ahur Vimukte, the royal road of liberation. Mahat Sevam Dvaram Ahur Vimuktes, Tamo Dvaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. Rendering service to the materialist has the opposite effect. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged only in sense enjoyment, then by association with such a person, the door to hell is opened. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshipper, and a sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. If we want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition, but he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is the result of associating with a sadhu. Kapila Muni first of all instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he is peaceful, he abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world. Engaged constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the sadhus do not suffer from the material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities. O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment. In the association of pure devotees, discussions of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and therefore and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Thus, consciously engaged in devotional service in the association of devotees, a person gains distaste for sense gratification, both in this world and in the next, by constantly thinking about the activities of the Lord. This process of Krishna consciousness is the easiest process of mystic power. When one is actually situated on that path of devotional service, he is able to control the mind.
તમે પાછા મૂકી દો ને.
Thus, by not engaging in the service of the modes of material nature, but by developing Krishna consciousness, knowledge in renunciation, and by practicing yoga, in which the mind is always fixed in devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one achieves my association in this very life, for I am the Supreme Personality, the Absolute Truth. On hearing this statement of the Lord, Devahuti inquired, what kind of devotional service is worth developing and practicing to help me easily and immediately attain the service of your lotus feet? The mystic yoga system, as you have explained, aims at the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is meant for completely ending material existence. Please let me know the nature of that yoga system. How many ways are there by which one can understand in truth that sublime yoga?
Okay, now I can't do this. Allah Krishna.
I call you for Arti since I finish everything.
Just keep it in the basement. Just keep it there. Remove this paper. I can take this downstairs, right? Stop this now.